What we do with Parent Summit Africa is to help parents experience an awakening that will cause them to take a part to creating a change in themselves individually, as well as commit to raising a wholesome 21st century child. And as we do this collectively, we are building the kind of society that we want to see. Our mission with the Parent Summit Africa is to create a platform that equips parents with the skills, strategies, and resources for self-transformation and raising wholesome children. Our vision is to effect social and societal change through parenting education, especially to change the narrative of Africa and the African child. Hi, my name is Vivian Okoye. I'm the convener of Parent Summit Africa. I'm a certified child psychologist, a parent coach, and a trained doctor of optometry. Parent Summit Africa is powered by our online parenting school, the Vivian Okoye Parenting Academy. We started Parent Summit Africa in 2017 to gather parents from all over the nation and beyond to start up relevant conversations around raising a wholesome 21st century child, as well as thinking about our contribution to sustainable development and nation building. We do this because we believe that at this point, our plan as a nation for sustainable development should shift its focus from just systems, institutions, and policies to actually creating a plan and strategy for a change in the attitude and mindset of its people. Because the people drive these institutions, the systems, and the policies. So if on an individual level, we're able to get it right with our attitude and our mindsets, then we can drive the institutions and policies in the right direction. Until we are able to do this, until we're able to create change in attitude and mindset on an individual level, then we will not experience any tangible change.
Hi. Good evening. Welcome to the 8th edition of Parent Summit Africa 2024. Welcome. I'm super excited to have you. If this is your first time of joining us, welcome. If you have been a regular attendee, welcome too. This edition is really close to my heart because I have amazing people that have accepted to come and share their experiences, their expertise, and their knowledge with us. And it's a topic that is really relevant for a time as this. I mean, if you're raising your child and you're not equipping them with the mental strength to navigate in the world that they're growing up today, then you're doing your child a disservice. So in this first session, we're really talking about what it looks like in practical terms to raise a mentally strong child. And the person that is doing this favor to us is someone I really adore. I'm not going to read a long note of biography and all of that. I'll just welcome Victor Ekpo Bassey to the stage. And Victor, I'm literally sharing my secrets with you guys. Victor is one of my best kept secrets. He's my personal person, and he is one of the strongest minds I know. And there is no other person to do justice to this topic than Victor. Please, I want us to pay attention. If you're doing anything that would distract you from this session, please just pay attention to this session. Welcome to the Parent Summit Africa 2024, officially open, and welcome to stage Victor Bassey Ekpo to do justice to this conversation. Welcome, Victor. Thank you.
Hey there, Vivian. Thank you very much for having me. Just a quick check. Is my audio okay? Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you, but it's a bit croaky. I don't know if anything can be.
Okay. I can do something about that. I'll just do a quick one, and this is yes. So It should be better now. It's better now, right? All right. So it's my first time on StreamYard, so I was messing around with the background stuff, but it takes a lot more system resources.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing your experience. I know I know you well, but I'll just wait for my audience to get to know you. And I trust that nobody will leave this session the same. You leave with
Fingers
information,
crossed.
you leave with practical knowledge of what you can do with your child. So welcome, Victor. I'm gonna leave you to do justice to the topic, and I'm gonna share your slide now.
Okay, all right, and thank you very, very much. So, hey there, everyone. My name, as she has said, is Victor Ekpo Bassey, and over the next 45 minutes, I'm just going to share my experiences as a father. I'm not what you would call a parenting coach, all right, but in the process of my work and the process of my life right now, I've had the opportunity to raise three amazing girls, and they are my legacy, and I'm absolutely proud of them. And the ideas that I'll be sharing with us this evening are the principles that have sat behind how I raised my daughters. I've got three daughters. I've got one that's 30 years old. I've got one that is 15. I've got one that is 12. So I'm the king of family planning, as you might want to think about it. So pretty much that is that. We've got a lot to cover, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. We're talking about raising mental giants and foundational principles for raising mentally and emotionally strong kids. And just like I was sharing much earlier, this is my justification for being able to share whatever it is that I am sharing at this particular point in time. I've got three amazing girls, like I said, and one baby. All right. So this is my eldest girl here, if you can see by my cursor. I would say that she is mini me. She runs her own business, has finished school, runs her own business, doing very, very well for herself. This is my youngest. She is a gamer. Okay. And over the course of her life, she wants to become a professional gamer. Right now, she's in the amateur leagues. And as of last weekend, she basically won $4,000 as a result of gaming. This lady here is my second daughter. She is a gifted story writer, has two books out in the market, and wants to be a content strategist for big brands and all of that. And then, of course, so these are my three girls. This is my sister-in-law, and this is my baby. Okay, I've been in love with this woman for just over 32 years. And well, I'll talk about her much later, but I'm always excited whenever it is that I get to showcase them. So this is my credibility. This is the reason why I am able to share what I am going to share today. Now, the bulk of what I'm going to be sharing today is from a framework that I refer to as the way of the Tribemaster. It's basically about how you think about building and leveraging influence in the marketplace, and for some people, how you monetize it. But the thing that you need to understand about this is that influence, the capacity to be the operating system in somebody's head, is something that is strategic. And if you're going to build it with anybody, there's a lens through which you would build it. I have customized this for parents, and it's the framework, it's the lens through which I look at my relationship with my kids. And so before we get into it, there are just a few application guidelines that I'd like us to go through really quickly. And so these are presuppositions. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are true. Okay, it's just a way of looking at things that gives you options. It's a way of thinking about your relationship with your children that gives you options. Is it the only way? No. Okay, there are 1,001 different ways that you can look at things, but I have found that looking at things through this particular way and helping my personal clients who are majorly busy people look at their relationship with their kids through this lens, it has helped to build a really strong relationship with the kid. But more importantly, especially for the kind of people that I work with, this way of looking at things helps you raise children who are independent and can think for themselves. And this is very important, especially in the world that we live in today. So in order for you to use this, use it as a lens through which you can view your parenting challenges. There are all kinds of challenges, and there are 7 areas that I'm going to address. And if you look at this lens through this, if you look at those challenges through this lens, you'll find more often than not that you'll be able to come up with solutions that work for you and work for the child. You need to be able to apply it flexibly according to each child's unique needs. And so in my experience, how I apply it with my eldest is very different from how I apply it with my youngest. It's very different from how I apply it with my middle child. And so you've got to be flexible enough to understand that it's not a one size fits all, but it's a protocol that gives you options for creating a different kind of reality with your kids. Revisited regularly as children grow up and develop. So you look at this as frequently as possible, because the way you apply it as a parent, as the child grows through their growth stages, is very, very different. Being a father to a 30-year-old is a completely different thing to being a father to a 13-year-old, and it's different from being a father to a 15-year-old. The needs are very, very different. And the biggest mistake you can make is to think that it's the same one size fits all thing. Second, you can adapt it to your family specific situation, and it has to be implemented gradually and consistently and used to inform daily parenting decisions. The most important thing to remember, though, is that these presuppositions are guidelines. They're not rigid rules. The art of parenting lies in knowing how to apply them wisely in your own unique family format. So with that out of the way, let's get into the very, very first frame. The major challenge area that we have as parents is that of our parental influence. And throughout all of this, I'll just spatter this with as many stories as I can, and stories from my relationship with my kids, stories from the relationship of my clients with their kids as well. But when it comes to parental influence, your ability to be the operating system in the heads of your kids. And this is very, very important, because if you are a person of high integrity, then it makes sense that that value of integrity is transferred to your kids. And so if you've got a very, very strong value system, how do you install that value system in the heads of your kids so that when you are not there, they make decisions as if you're there to guide them? There's so many things that I do in my life today, that the decisions that I've made today that have made my life, given me the quality of life that I have today, it's mainly because I have my father's thoughts running in my head. And this is how you basically do that. There are three major protocols that you have to think about when it comes to parental influence. There's the power of non-control, there's a power of influence, there's a power of primary influence, and then of course there's a whole thing about leadership paradox. All right. When it comes to the power of non-control, the most important thing you need to understand is the less you try to control your children, the more influence you have over their lives. The less you try to control your children, the more influence you have over their lives. True parental authority comes from trust. It does not come from force. This was a very, very difficult thing for me to understand. I'm just grateful that I got to understand it early enough. When someone gives you trust, whenever it is that anybody, and I'm not just talking about kids now, but if they give you a very, very high level of trust, you don't have to convince them to do anything. They will do it by default because that instruction is essentially coming from you. Anytime at all that you have a high level of resistance from your kids, it's indicative of the fact that there is a low level of trust, or a lower level of trust than is required for them to be able to act in faith towards you and follow your instructions. This is very, very important. And the best way for you to gain trust from your kids is to give them the ability, to give them the space to basically be themselves, to give them the space to know that, yes, I can be myself. And if I make a mistake, daddy, mommy will catch me. Daddy, mommy will be there to kind of like help me when it counts the most. But this whole thing about parental authority, we have to think a bit from the standpoint of trust and acquiring higher and higher levels of trust with our kids. Now, when it comes to trust with our kids, there are two things that are important. Your kids are watching your character. And so, do you lie a lot? Do you make excuses a lot? Can they count on your word? Okay. And to the extent that your children can count on your word, even when you don't follow through, that is the extent to which they trust you. But it's not just about them being able to count on your word. Can you actually say that you're competent when it comes to understanding them, when it comes to dealing with them, when it comes to helping them understand that you see them, you hear them, you are on the same page with them? So this thing about being a competent leader with your children and being a person of high character with your kids, when you put them together, you put them yourself in a situation where your kids are able to trust you, and that trust comes willingly and not by force. You can force them to do a lot of things, but that's how you have kids who will look one way in the family, and the moment you send them to boarding school, they're a completely different set of kids. They're easily influenced by kids, by other children with stronger values. They're easily influenced by kids with stronger personalities. And that comes because the foundation that you needed to be able to lay for them as a result of the level of character and competence that you bring to the table, that was not there. And so they pretend, because you're trying to force your way with them, they pretend to comply. But once they have the opportunity, it's a completely different level with them. So you've got to understand that control inside of your relationship with your kids does not come from control. It comes from trust. It doesn't come from force. All right. The second thing is this whole thing about the primary influence principle. The fact is that somebody is going to be the primary influence in your children's life, and it might as well be you. But this influence is earned by relationship. It is not demanded through authority. My middle daughter watches a lot of training videos on YouTube. And you know the thing with YouTube, one recommendation leads to another and another and another and another. And then, of course, so she stumbled on this particular YouTube channel. And on this YouTube channel, this lady analyzes books, and my daughter loves book analysis because it helps her in how to promote reviews that she gets paid for. So she's listening to this lady, and this lady becomes her favorite. But as time goes on, this lady starts giving biased reviews. And as she gives these biased reviews, she was slotting ideas about LGBTQ. She was slotting ideas about gender alteration. She was slotting ideas about woke economy and all of those kinds of stuff. And the moment my daughter noticed that this lady was doing this, she shared that thought with me. And when she shared it with me, instead of just going, blood of Jesus, cut that woman off, I was like, so what are you going to do? She says it's very, very sad, but she really, really likes the lady, that she has two options. She can either listen to her from afar, and anytime at all she brings the LGBTQ thing up, she will just ignore it. I was like, well, is that a great idea? She says, well, maybe not, because the more she listens to it, the more she starts to agree with it. So what are you going to do? She said she's going to look for options. And that's how she ended the relationship with that particular lady. But here's the thing, all right? If I didn't have the kind of relationship that I have with my second daughter, the chances are very, very high that I wouldn't even have heard that she was listening to this lady. And so one lady like that from half across the world, who I don't know anything about, will be the operating system in the heads of my daughter. But thankfully, because of the quality of relationship that we have, and because of the openness in the relationship that we have, and because of the trust that we share, she opened up to me about it, and we were able to nip that in the bud. The third thing about parental influence is what I refer to as the leadership paradox. And that is that strong parents don't create strong children. And when I'm referring to strong parents here, I'm talking about those parents that feel, that act like they've got it together. Okay, they have all the answers, they have all the solutions, they know how to do every single thing. My way is the right way. You have to always listen to me. What tends to happen with strong parents is that they don't create strong children. What they end up creating is dependent children. It's the parents who know how to step back and give the child the opportunity to make their own mistakes, to fall if necessary, and catch them only when it is absolutely necessary. Those are the parents that actually raise mentally strong children. So, to get this out of the way, it's important for us to understand that the foundation of influence that you are building with your child defines just how quickly your child becomes mentally and emotionally strong. And the foundation of that is the trust and the quality of relationship between you and your child. That relationship you have to cultivate as carefully as you are with anything at all that you're passionate about. And it takes a lot of time. Okay, there's nothing that I'm saying here that would not cost you time, that would not cost you energy. But you've got to ask yourself at some particular point in time, are you willing to risk creating a relationship with your child that will come bite you in the you know what in the future? Because every single thing that you're doing with these children right now is creating either an angel in the future or a beast or a monster in the future. And the first person to benefit from the consequences of that is usually the parents. All right. So this is really, really important. This is as important as you planning your financial retirement, because you want kids that will not be a headache for you. You want kids that would give you peace of mind at those particular points in time when peace of mind is absolutely necessary. And so no matter how far gone the situation is, if you're just having a child, if you've had your child and they're teens or their adult child, what I generally believe is that influence can be created at any particular point in time, and it's built on the foundation of trust. Trust is a function of competence and character, and you can always create that at any particular point in time through the quality of relationships that you have with your kids. So let's talk about mental strength. When it comes to mental strength, we're looking at three things. We're looking at a growth mindset, we're looking at independence, and we're looking at what I refer to as responsibility transfer. All right. Every challenge that your child faces is an opportunity for mental growth. Okay. Struggles are not obstacles to success, they are the very foundation of it. I believe that one of the worst things that we can do to our kids as parents is to be overly protective of them. And it's counterintuitive, because as a parent, what you want to do is protect your children from all the bad stuff. But sometimes allowing them a certain level of challenge, allowing them to experience the tough times and the challenges in life is actually an opportunity for them to grow in strength mentally. And so we need to switch the way we look at struggle. I have a friend who had gone through a very tough time, and at a particular point in time, he made up a decision in his head, and it was like, the things that I went through, my child will never go through those kinds of things. And so, to compensate for what he lost as a child, he decided to give all of those things to his kid. Unfortunately, by the time this child was 16, he was an entitled, really stubborn, rude child. Fortunately, my friend was able to recalibrate the relationship and the way he looked at things, because he overprotected the child. And as a result of overprotecting the child, he created a son that could not stand on his own 2 feet. So giving your children the opportunity to struggle within the limits of reason, it's actually good for them. When it comes to what we refer to as the dependency principle, children are naturally wired to think independently. Children are naturally wired to think independently. Our job is to make sure that we don't break this wiring. And so when it looks like your children are asking you too many questions, or they seem to be challenging your thinking, it's not a sign of rudeness from a child. It's usually that they are curious and they're trying to make sense of whatever it is that you're doing. Now, obviously, there's a right way for them to talk to you and there's a wrong way for them to talk to you. But all of that is based on the foundation of how you basically raised them. But fundamentally, children at different points in time will challenge what they don't understand. And if you understand that part of how to help their independent thinking is not to break their ability to challenge, but to encourage it and create a safe environment for it to grow in a way that makes sense. Then things start to happen. I had an interesting incident happen with my youngest daughter. So she was in school and they were talking about reproduction. And the lady who was running the class was using code words and trying as much as possible to avoid using the words penis and vagina. And so my daughter raised up her hands and asked her, why are you not using the words penis and vagina? And the woman got embarrassed and got slightly ticked off by that and then punished my daughter. So when she did that, after the punishment was done, my daughter went over to the head teacher's office and then reported the situation, detailing the fact that she didn't think she did anything wrong, but that she was treated unfairly. So they called the teacher in, and the teacher explained her part. My daughter explained her part very vehemently, I might add. And then in the end, apologized to the teacher that she didn't want to be, it's not like she wanted to be rude or anything like that, but she felt those were wrong words for doing that. And the reason why she did that was basically because in our house, we don't use slang words for genitals. We talk about it like it is, okay? Because I want my kids to be as comfortable with themselves as possible, because then and only then can they have certain conversations with me that normally they wouldn't if we didn't put things up that way. But later on, the teacher reported, sent a note to me. I had to intervene and all of that and get the teacher to understand that my daughter wasn't necessarily being rude, but hey, this is how I raised, and I'm sorry about that. And then I discussed it with my daughter, asked her what she was going to do. She said she was going to go to school. She was going to go straight to the teacher, apologize to her, hug her, and then she's going to write a very, very long letter of apology. And then she was not going to do that anymore because she understands now where the teacher is coming from. All right. But in the process of my child doing that, she learned a number of things. But what would have happened if I had broken her will to express herself? Okay, that's a really, really good question for most of us to consider. The responsibility transfer. The earlier children learn to handle age-appropriate responsibilities, the stronger their mental foundation comes. Every time you solve a problem they could solve, you rob them of mental strength. I remember when my child was much younger. This is my second child. Second daughter, by the way. She came back from school one day and we had a conversation. She asked me, why don't I help her with her homework the same way other fathers help their children with their homework? And I was like, what do you mean? She said, they make it easy. I was like, what do you mean? She said, well, they give them the answers and they write it for them and then they submit it in school and the marks are great. I'm like, okay. So what happens if what happens if during examinations, the same questions come and because you didn't know the answers, and I'm not there to tell you the answers, what would happen? She said she wouldn't know what to write. I said, and if you don't know what to write, what will happen? She said she wouldn't answer the questions. If you don't answer the questions, what will happen? I'll fail the examinations. If you don't fail the examinations, what will happen? And she kept quiet. And ever since then, she works doubly hard. And we have a protocol in our house when it comes to homework and assignments. And that is, you don't just come and say, Daddy, I don't know what this is, okay? Come with something that you've done, and then based on what you've done, we'll reverse engineer the entire thing. It takes a lot more of my time, all right, to work with them that way. But I do understand that by working with them that particular way, it improves their resilience, it improves their mental ability to solve their own problems. All right. So when it comes to the principles that guide how you help them develop mental strength, you've got to understand that struggles are not obstacles to success. They're the foundation of success. You've got to understand that questions and challenges from your children, they are signs of healthy mental development. You've got to understand that every time you solve a problem for them that they could have solved for themselves, you rob them of mental energy. All right, so this is very, 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 very important. Third thing that we're looking at is emotional in intelligence. And I define emotional intelligence as the ability to manage your emotions, okay, in such a way that it consistently moves you in the direction that you want for yourself, okay? And so all emotions are valid, okay? Being angry is valid. Being upset is valid. Being frustrated is valid. Every single emotion is valid. The challenge is not your child having the emotions. The challenge is how your child learns to express those emotions. I was in a car with a friend, and the child at the back told her that she was hungry. And the mother was like, okay, we'll soon be home. Just give me a few minutes. And this child starts kicking the seat of the mother from the back. And the mother is just not worried about it. And well, it's not my it's not my place to step in if I've not been asked to help. But I was observing all of that, and I was thinking about the dynamics that must be happening inside of the relationship between that child and that. And no, the child does not have any mental health issues or anything like that. He just has completely different ways of expressing his emotions. Eventually, he learned um, better. But as parents, the process of teaching our child how to express out their anger, how to express their discontent, how to express whatever emotion it is that they're feeling, it's a primary responsibility. And here's the thing, they take their cues from us primarily, and then from whoever else has influence over them, aka the TV programs that they watch, and their friends in school, and the teachers that teach them in school. And they observe, and whatever it is that seems to be okay and the norm, that's what they take. And so the responsibility with me and for me when it comes to my daughters is, yes, you can be upset, you can be angry, but you don't throw a tantrum about it. If you're upset about something, you don't pick up your phone and throw it out the window. If you do that, that's the last time I'm buying you a phone. But deliberately making sure that they understand that different expressions of emotion come with different levels of consequence is really, really important. Because if you don't lay the foundation for them, that wrong expression of emotion can put them in trouble at multiple different levels throughout their lives. And so children should be allowed to feel negative emotions and develop better emotional control. The thing about the safety paradox is this: the safer children feel expressing their thoughts and feelings, the more resilient they become. Emotional safety creates mental health. So when we're talking about emotional safety here, can your child come to you and talk about anything without feeling like you are going to take their heads off? Can they feel safe that no matter what the topic is, that you'll be available to listen? You won't go, "Oh, blood of Jesus," and then read them a riot act or something like that. It's a very, very important. It's a very, very important thing for you to provide to your kids as a gift. The ability to say, "Hey, you can talk to me about anything, and I will listen." I had a conversation with my daughter a few weeks back. And when I'm talking about my daughter here, I'm talking about my eldest. Okay. And whilst we were talking, she said something that I found very, very cool. And that thing that she said to me was this: that she loves the fact that not only can I listen to anything at all that she has to say, but I would actually listen without giving her a lecture. And what typically happens is I just let them talk, and they talk and talk, and I'm like, oh, okay, what are you going to do? And all of that. And I listen. All right. When they've gotten it out of their system, we hug, they move away. Maybe a day or two later, I'm like, hey, you know that thing that you shared with me the other day? I've got a few ideas about it. Are you open to listening? And they're like, yeah. At that particular point in time, because I've invested to like hear them out and they feel heard and seen, now they can hear what I actually have to say. And that ability to create a safe environment for your kids, it pays off in so many different ways. Because like I said, until they let you in, you don't know what's going on in their heads. Okay, and that's very, very important. The connection principle. Strong emotional connections enable greater independence, not dependence. All right. The deeper the roots, the stronger the wings. All right. The more you invest time, okay, in building that connection with your kids. And when I say invest time, to be very, very honest, um, if you're going to build a really, really strong relationship with your kids, the amount of time, the minimum amount of time that you actually need to build it and then maintain it is a total of 3 hours a week. All right. Can you imagine how relieved I was when I learned that? Because prior to that particular point in time, I thought that being available to my kids meant I basically had to be there over and over and over and over and over and over again. But over a period of 7 days, investing 3 really, really, really high quality hours with them, whether it's 1 hour every other day or whether it's 30 minutes a day or throughout the week, but focused 100% on them, whichever way you want to spin that. 3 hours is what you need to build, 90 minutes is what you need to maintain. All right. And so with my youngest, anything from 3 hours, but at my busiest, whatever it is, I still manage to chalk in 3 hours over the course of 7 days with them. And for my eldest, 90 minutes a week, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Hey, how are you doing? 15 minutes here, and we're good. All right. But that's because over time, I laid the foundation for what was necessary for that level of trust to come in. And so when you understand that from the point of the dynamics of what you actually need to put into a relationship to build it, it makes life a whole lot easier for us. Now, I'm going to run through the rest of this really, really quick because I've got about 10 minutes left. But when we're answering the questions, we're asking questions, I hope that will be able to make up for the difference. So when it comes to their learning and growth, there are 3 things. There's this whole thing about helping them understand that there's consequence to every single thing. There's helping them experience failure and benefit from it. And then there's this whole thing about improving and building their curiosity. So let's look at natural consequence. Natural consequences are better teachers than parental punishments. Now, what do I mean by natural consequences? It's that when you do certain things, what's the word for it now? When you do certain things, life has a way of teaching you a lesson. So my second daughter, I got her to start washing her uniform pretty early, but every now and then she doesn't do it. Okay, she expects that the help would do it. So this particular point in time, oh sorry, let me just be clear. So on Saturdays and Sundays, she's expected to wash her uniform. All right, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have someone who helps with that so that they can focus on getting to school and all of that kind of stuff. But Saturdays and Sundays, if you come back with dirty uniform on Friday, I expect you to wash it. So she didn't wash it. And before now, what would generally happen is that we would go get the extras and she would wear that and then the help would now wash the other. So this particular point in time, I was like, no, we're not going to do that. So come the Monday of morning, the uniform that she hadn't washed was what she wore. First of all, she was very, very uncomfortable with it, but I didn't make a fuss. She gets down to school and everybody from the teachers is asking what went wrong, what happened, that. And she was like, she didn't wash her uniform. Why didn't you wash your uniform? All of that, the moment she came back from school, that particular, she just went straight into the bathroom, washed the uniform, got every single thing ready. And ever since then, there has not been a weekend when she didn't wash it. Now, all my nagging and all of that might not necessarily have changed the situation, but the natural consequence of that forced her to think about what really, really matters to her and to link it to the fact that, hey, maybe this guy knew what he was talking about. So learning through experience builds strong mental models than learning through in instruction. The failure foundation, every failure is an opportunity for growth. Children who are protected from failure are robbed of resilience. I think this speaks for itself. All right. Do not overprotect your child. If they're not good at a subject matter and they're not willing to put in the work and they're getting bad grades, don't protect them from the consequences of that. A lady was telling me about her son, and this guy is 27. They had sent him to a particular school. He left the school, said he wasn't interested in the course. So they sent him to another school. He said he wasn't interested. Then he now said he wanted to go to somewhere in South Africa. They sent him there. He decided that he wasn't interested in that anymore, came back to Nigeria. So the the parents were just, what is going on? Because they really, really care about getting him established. And they said that there's a particular thing that he wants to do. And I was like, that's not a problem. If he wants to go to any particular school at all, he is free to go. Shebi is earning money. Fine. Let him pay for it. Okay. You guys can help with transportation and all of that. But no problem. Let him pay for it. Once it became clear that it was his money that was on the line, he sat up. Every other thing changed. All right. So that's important. Let's look at the curiosity culture. All right. Questions are more valuable than answers, and encouraging curiosity builds stronger minds than providing solutions. All right. And so anytime they come with challenges from school, maybe they have to deal with a bully, maybe they have to deal with cliques in school or a particular teacher or anything like that. I don't jump in. I've learned literally not to jump in. What I've learned to do is to ask them questions that help them come up with their own options. And here's the thing, when you teach a child to design options for themselves and then test that option, that is a vital, critical part of their education. All right, very, very important. And so rather than jumping in to answer questions and provide solutions, help them come up with their own solutions by learning how to ask quality answers. So you're asking quality questions. Now let's talk about decision making. All right. The choice principle, the ability to make choices and live with the consequences builds mental strength. Even poor decisions, when properly processed, build better judgments. My youngest daughter, when she just basically got into gaming, she had a foundational amount of money to get in, and she blew all of that money on, on the wrong stuff. And so she now found herself in a situation where she couldn't do what she needed to do. So I spotted her once more and she blew it again. And so I refused to spot her the third time. So now she had to go the hard route of generating those same funds again. And by the time she generated those same funds, guess what? When we have that conversation, she was like, now I understand what you're always talking about when you say financial management. You can't be spending money anyhow. And so helping them make decisions and helping them deal with the consequences of their decisions is also very, very important. Autonomy, the ability to feel like you are in control of your life. Age-appropriate autonomy builds confidence and competence. And the more you trust your children with decisions, the better decisions that they make. And that means creating space, like I said, for them to make mistakes. All right. We learn essentially from our mistakes. The guidance balance. Effective guidance is about asking the right questions, not giving the right answers. Children who learn to think through decisions become better decision makers. Again, this is all about helping them learn what they need to learn. When it comes to family dynamics, all right, number one, respect is reciprocal. So children who are respected tend to respect themselves and others. Mutual respect builds stronger family bonds than authority alone. There's none of my kids that would go into my fridge and take something that belongs to me without asking me. We have this funny thing in the house. I love eggs. And so when we buy eggs, we'll have like, let's say we buy like 4 crates of eggs. I'll have 1 crate. The house will have 3. Now they will rush and finish theirs. But when it comes to mine, they literally will not just enter my room and take my eggs. They will come and ask first. Just like if I needed to use my youngest daughter's fan, I wouldn't just go in and take it. I would ask, hey, can I use your fan? A few days ago, my workstation was giving me problems. My youngest daughter had a gaming appointment, but I needed to run a workshop. And so I went to her. I was like, hey, Nelly, I have a problem. I don't know if you can help me. And she was like, Daddy, what's up? I was like, my laptop is messing up. And her face just went down. She was like, you need to use my laptop. I said, yes. But I noticed her face and I was like, what's going on? And she said, well, she has a gaming appointment. So I was like, okay, don't worry, I'll figure it out. But this girl unplugged her laptop, did every single thing, came, set things up for me. And so I ended up using her laptop. When I asked her what happened, she said, well, that she had downplayed what she was going to do and eventually reset the appointment for some other time and then followed up with her phone. That culture of respect is something that you as a parent, you have to put in place. You lead all of that. All right. So it's very, very important. Mutual respect builds strong family bonds faster than authority alone. When it comes to when it does come to communication, the foundation of communication, open dialogue builds strength. Children who learn express a lot of things effectively for themselves. And then, of course, when it comes to boundaries, setting boundaries is very, very important. So, guys, that is pretty much as I can take at this particular point in time. If you've got opportunities for questions, I'll be more than happy to take up those questions. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This has been, I mean, everyone is like raving for you in the chats. This has been amazing. That's nice. This has been amazing and very, very simplified and relatable as well. Thank you so much. We have some questions. We will take some of them. There are quite a number of them. We'll take some of them within the time that we have available, and we'll see. So the first question is on the screen. It says, when you say it takes 3 hours a week to maintain a strong connect with your children, from what age do we advise that can be applied?
The age of conscious decision, which is basically 1.5 years.
All right, that's pretty straight.
Once your child is at 1.5 years, in fact, from 1 for most kids, you better start investing that amount of time at the minimum, especially if you're the father and you have work. That's how you start laying that foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, so this person says, with the current trend, I suppose that's what he wanted to say, with the current trend and loss of parent capacity over their kids, how do we manage dependency and independent quest of children?
You don't manage that, you manage yourself. The children, you don't lose what you refer to as capacity with your kids. You give it up by irresponsible thinking and behavior. That's basically what happens. So if you want to take it back, assume responsibility for actually investing time in teaching and leading your kids. And there's nothing that brings up your insecurities more than a child that is challenging you. All right. So sometimes I've met children who are more aware of what's happening in the world than their parents. All right. And so the balance of leadership kind of like shifts. So working on yourself, going to work on yourself, going to work on your personal beliefs and the things that you have a capacity to helps you. But fundamentally, nothing takes the place of demonstrating great character and demonstrating that you understand your child. Nothing puts you back in the driver's seat faster than those two things.
Thank you. So this one says, good evening, sir. Thank you so much for this beautiful session. My question is this: how do I make my toddler open up to me, and how do I discipline without making them feel bad?
Toddler. You don't make a toddler open up to you. You allow the toddler be, but you set boundaries. Okay,
Yeah.
you set boundaries. So here's what happened to my middle daughter. Um, when she was much younger, she was just about a year plus. All right. And I used to feed her from the bottle. And she had this some no, I didn't feed her from the bottle. I used to feed her with a spoon. And so she had this funny habit of just packing food in her mouth. And then after a while, she splashes the thing on my face. Mama, eat. Mama, eat. And then she just splashed the thing on my face. So one day, I had enough. So she splashed the thing on my face. I just put her down. Jeje went and washed every single thing. I left her. After a while, she became very, very hungry. She started crying. I just did not answer. Then she comes to me and then she's talking, Dada poo, as in daddy food, daddy food. I didn't just answer her or anything like that. And then at a particular point in time, she was just like, just holding me, holding me, holding me. I was like, if I feed you now, will you behave? She was just looking at me. So I picked her up, lifted the spoon, and just held it and looked at her. I didn't take it to her or anything. I just left it, held it. And then she brought her own mouth, took some, she swallowed it immediately. I picked another one, held it. She took it. And we went like that until she finished. And then I dropped her. She was just looking at me. In the evening, when I was going to feed her again, I just lifted up the spoon and then held it. I did not move until she came for it. And that just changed the dynamic between us. The thing with kids is, first of all, you've got to allow them to be themselves, but you also have to set boundaries for how they relate with you. You don't have to be violent, you don't have to be loud, but there are boundaries that you can set very, very easily.
Yeah.
You know,
so this will be the final question before we take the announcement and jump into the next session. This one says, my 7-year-old throws tantrum like a toddler, rolls on the floor and all. How do I handle this? Secondly, she tends to do the opposite of the instruction given or what she's told.
well, two answers to that. The reason why children can get away with a lot of things is because they are incredibly flexible. Okay, and they don't operate by the same rules as every other person. But one of the presuppositions that I learned very, very early is that it's usually the most flexible person in any system that regulates the system. I had a cousin that would throw tantrums like that, and whenever he throws a tantrum, I throw a bigger one. And after a while, he just does not know what to do with it, and then he calms. He calms down. Now, when it comes to giving instructions and the kid does not do what you ask them to do, pay attention to how you communicate to them when they actually do what you want them to do. Because sometimes we think we're actually talking to these kids, but what we think we're saying to them is not actually what we are saying to them. The communication that you're having with them at that particular point in time might not necessarily be what they are getting from you. All right. So what I have learned is if I say go and bring a spoon and they go and bring a fork, there's something about the way I am saying it that they don't get. So sometimes I might have to be a little bit more deliberate. Now, that's a general answer. Okay. In order for me to be actually know or give a prescription for your particular situation, I would definitely need more information about that. But unfortunately, we don't have the time. So
any question that is not answered here, please drop it in the group. That's why I sent an email out. It's either you join the WhatsApp or the Telegram group, whatever you prefer. We have community there, and we take questions every now and again. There. Someone asked, what do I do when I'm spending time with my kids? We have a 30-day bonding challenge that we do, where we provide with activities that you can actually do as a family to foster your connection with your kids. So if you're not in the WhatsApp and Telegram group, just join there. You'll get access to these resources. And if you didn't register, if you happen to stumble on this video and you didn't register for this summit, but you stumbled on this video on YouTube, then you do well to look for the link and register, because most of the resources will not be sent to you if you didn't register. There's one final question that is important that I want you to answer quickly before we jump out. And the person said, what happens when the relationship was not fostered at an early age, and for some reason parents seeks for this bond later on when adulthood approaches?
When that happens, you must understand that, first of all, you've got to be accepted as a friend that can be trusted before you can be accepted as a parent. The major mistake that most parents make after abandonment for a long period of time is you think you can just jump from I don't know you to I am your mother or I am your father. No, it doesn't work that way. You've got to be seen as a trusted acquaintance, as a friend, before they give you that title of mother and father. If you have abandoned them, it has to be gifted to you back. You can't just assume it. You might be their father and mother biologically, but in reality, socially, they will not acknowledge it. And until they acknowledge it, you have to be a really, really good friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Victor. Thank you so much for sharing. Everyone is saying thank you in the chat. Guys, put your thank yous in the chat. If you are just stumbling on this video, please do well to register. Parent Summit Africa 2024 is powered by Minds and Wellbeing Network. Minds and Wellbeing Network is an initiative where we support parents, individuals, families, organizations with education and support around mental health, therapy, and all that works. And this event is also supported by Smartphone Productivity Club. You heard Victor say that his second daughter is a gamer, right? So Smartphone Productivity Club is an organization that teaches your children media literacy, essentially your children are spending time on their devices anyway, but what are they doing there? Are they creators or are they consumers? So Smartphone Productivity Club teaches your children how to be producers in the digital space. And I would share a video by them as we transit out of this session. Please join the next session with the link. If you registered, you have your access link. Join the second session. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much, Victor, for teaching us. Thank you. If you're asking for the slides, we will share the experience with you, and we have put together an implementation plan to help you put all of this in the works, live all of these experiences in your day-to-day life, and actually see them materialize in the relationship you're building with yourself and your child. So thank you for coming. See you in the next session.
As compared to how we were raised in the past, parents are now concerned about screen time, concerned about how children use social media or how their children interact with tech devices around them. My name is Frederick Nnamdi. I am a tech YouTuber and educator. My organization works with schools to offer digital literacy education to children, promoting personal well-being through technology. And it's quite an honor to be talking to you today, all thanks to Dr. Vivian. And I believe that we're learning so much from this online summit so far. I'm going to be talking about how you can boost your child's mental well-being and self-confidence using digital literacy. Now, I'm going to bring a scenario that I've experienced a couple of times in class. Now, in these schools that we work with, we usually ask that the children come with their own tablets or laptops so that they can be able to actually use their device and take it home and show their parents what they did in school. Now, there's this set that will come with theirs, and then there's this other set that won't come with theirs. And when you ask the people that didn't come, you hear two things, either of two things. My mommy said I'm going to spoil it, or I do not have. In the course of the class, we do even tell them to pair with the ones that have, but you notice a kind of response from the ones that did not come. They are more, lost in the class, or kind of feel intimidated by those ones that already has, because you see those ones that has, they are super excited, they are willing to do whatever thing you want them to do. They are just all geared up for the class. Now, there's another thing I noticed. Maybe we are teaching Canva design for, using Canva to design any form of graphics, maybe birthday. Then we ask, how many of you have ever used Canva before? You see this particular child or children that will be like, yes, I've used it, my mommy taught me, yes, I know how to use it, I did this. Their interaction in class and their confidence in class when compared to the ones that don't know is always different. They are eager to ask questions, they are eager to answer questions. So you can see how keeping your child away from digital literacy or equipping them with a tech skill is already impacting their confidence in class. And of course, children, once they feel they don't know like every other person, it begins to enter into their mind. You should know that digital literacy is a must for your child because it is going to help nurture these 3 essential life skills in your child. The first one is creativity. In creativity, if compared to how we were raised, if you want to know a creative child in the 90s, it's only children that can draw with their hands, like I used to draw on the ground, or mold things, or just do some, or go get straight A's in school. But today, a lot of children now have smart devices. If you're going to now test, a test of creativity is now on what children are able to produce using technology. So you don't want your child to be left behind while every other child is, moving forward. I always ask parents this: if your child is put in a room full of children from different parts of the world, does your child has the strength to compete with them? Can your child still speak? If they're talking about HTML, if they're talking about Python, if they're talking about Canva, if they're talking about video editing, if they're talking about animation, Maya, mentioning all of these things, will your child stay like this and look at them? And trust me, it is actually affecting their mental well-being and also their self-confidence. Now, the second thing I talked about was problem solving. Now, problem solving is just about how children are going to be able to leverage digital skills to carry out tasks, perform, solve problems. Digital literacy helps them to actually learn about the skills or the tools that they can use to leverage all of those devices, the tablet, the laptop, the smartphone around them, to be able to get things done. Right? And then lastly, I talked about resilience. Resilience is now about how are they going to be able to stay in one thing on their device until they actually complete something. Now, this is where I would like to encourage your child, or encourage you to get your child to actually play video games. Now, there's a huge clause to this, but some video games actually helps your child in acquiring problem solving skills and also resilience. All right, so resilience, creativity, and problem solving are essential life skills that digital literacy helps to nurture your child on. I've said a lot of things, and probably you're beginning to think, Frederick, what do we do? All right, if you're in that boat, now this is the juicy part of another juicy part of what I've said, because everything I've said, it should be juicy, right? I mentioned the organization that I run and co-founded, by the way, and it's called Smartphone Productivity Club. Now, you might hear smartphone and you think that we teach the children about smartphone, but yes, it's also about equipping your child with tech skills or the digital literacy required to actually make effective, productive, and responsible use of their smartphone. Yeah, if your child owns a laptop, it's also good. If a child owns a tablet, it's also great, or an iPad is also great. It's all about what digital literacy. Now, there are a few things you need to know about our program. All right, so our program is designed to boost your child's confidence. All right, we designed a curriculum that can help foster creativity and as well mental well-being. We are trying to build your child to stand in any platform and compete with any child of their age for the sake of maintaining or fostering global relevance. And guess what? Because you are attending this program, Dr. Vivian has just secured you 30 whopping % discount if you wish to enroll your child in our program. Now, there are a few things you need to know. Number one, we're going to offer free consultation. We're going to offer free time with you to learn about your child, because we believe that there is always the right tech skill based on the potential or the natural disposition of your children. We don't actually encourage every child to go and learn how to code. We also say you can learn animation, you can learn graphics, you can learn web design, you can learn any other skills based on what the child loves. Because I always say this to kids: no matter what you actually become, no matter if you're becoming a doctor, if they grow into engineer, they grow into whatever, if they do not understand or know the technology that applies to that field, then AIs, okay, robots can easily replace them. So this is why ensuring that your child learns a tech skill today while they are still young, we do two things. Number one is going to help them to be responsible, because they now have a good knowledge or well educated on how to use their devices productively. We're going to also equip them with skills that will help them use their devices to improve on their education, just as we are also equipping them with essential digital skills to help them achieve global relevance. At Smartphone Productivity Club, we ensure that your child's mental well-being is intact, and also that we are boosting their confidence, such that whether they are in their classroom or anywhere in the world, they maintain a very high self-esteem. Once again, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you back at the summit.
Thank you everyone for joining. We're jumping right into the second session. Remember that we have 3 sessions today. The next session is around healing yourself so that you can raise mentally strong children. We're talking about trauma. We're talking about your own emotions and how to handle them, where they come from, and how to navigate all of that. So please, if you did not register, please find the link to register. If you did register, check your email or check the WhatsApp or Telegram group to see the access link for the next session, which is starting right now. Thank you again. This program is proudly powered by the Mind and Wellbeing Network. Mind and Wellbeing Network is a platform where we provide therapy, we provide mental health education for parents, for families, for individuals, and for organizations. And also, if you're interested in the Smartphone Productivity Club, please send us a message and we'll get you connected to how to attend any of their program. Their programs are amazing. My daughter has attended their program and she is enrolling because she wants to start her own YouTube channel. She's enrolling in another of their program to learn how to start and build her own YouTube channel. We can't help it. Our children are growing in the digital world, and we have to be at the forefront of equipping them with the literacy to navigate that space. We don't just throw them into that space without the knowledge that they need to thrive in that space. So guys, thank you again for coming. I'm happy you found value. We're just getting started. Every session is packed. See you at the next session. Thank you. Bye.